want to welcome back Deacon Trey Bart. It's always good to have Deacon Trey with us. This was his home parish before he entered the seminary. He was ordained a deacon this past May, many of you remember. Served his first Mass as a deacon here at the 4 o'clock Mass that day, later that afternoon after his ordination. He spent the summer and will spend most of this year at St. Peter's in Liberty Town as he returns to Mount St. Mary's for his final year of seminary. He's got a couple of weekends off hanging around home, so he called this morning and said, "Can you use an extra hand?" And I said, "Always, you're always welcome." I also want to offer another word of introduction. Just a few weeks ago, we introduced Ellen Payne. Ellen, stand up so everybody can see you. Our Director of Family and Children's Ministry. Today, I'm happy to introduce our new Coordinator of Youth Ministry, who also happens to be Ellen's husband, Doug. We have a husband-wife team for youth and family, children's, young adult ministry. Doug will start with us next week on Monday the 18th. He's currently been serving at St. Louis and Clarksville, but lives here in Baltimore County. So he and Ellen were both happy to have a shorter commute and a parish much closer to home. So Doug, it's great to have you. Ellen's been with us for a little over a month, has hit the ground running, and now we're going to have the husband and wife team to do all our ministry, or coordinate all of our ministry with our children, youth, and young adults. So Doug, Ellen, welcome to both of you. Once Doug gets settled and learns the ropes, we'll have him get up and speak at Masses some weekend as we kind of begin to chart our course, our vision for ministry with our middle school, high school students and young adults. A lot of times we speak about our eager anticipation for something. I can't wait for something to happen. Trey, eagerly awaiting priesthood ordination a little less than a year from now. I'm sure you can say, "I can't wait." Get finished with school, can't wait. I've been saying for months, I can't wait to have new members join our team. Lots of things we can say, I can't wait. Sarah, Diane, and Matt, welcome back. They're newlyweds last year. They were our first wedding in the renovated church. They're eagerly expecting their first child. Can't wait, right? She's due in January. Lots of little things we say, I can't wait. I was stuck in traffic on the Beltway yesterday saying, I can't wait for them to finish this construction project. Though they'll just be another project after that. So we say, I can't wait with that eager expectation. And there's a lot of things that we'd want to put off. And say, well, if I don't have to deal with it, then it could stay out in the future as long as possible. Is heaven one of those things that we can't wait for? Let's just be blunt. The scriptures talk about this gift of faith and what we hope for. The letter to the Hebrews gives us this great definition about faith is confidence about what we hope for and evidence in things not seen. How much do we eagerly await that which we can't fully understand? The scriptures today speak to us about readiness, and I think also about eagerness and anticipation for the things of God. The book of Wisdom, speaking of the night of Passover as the Israelites awaited deliverance that had been promised. And Jesus, in his cryptic words in the gospel parable, talk about the servants being ready for the master, eagerly anticipating that moment to do what they were called to do. All of this, I think, speaks of an eagerness and a hunger for God, which includes being not just willing, but eager to do God's will. And there are lots of times we look at our faith as this obligation. We speak of the practice of the faith, but there ought to be a joy in serving the Lord as well. We express some of that eagerness for God and our willingness and are ready to encounter him as we come here to church. In the liturgy, we come to Mass not only to receive the Lord in word and in the Eucharist, in his body and blood, but we come eagerly to serve, to give of ourselves in our worship as we offer something to the Lord who is offering something of himself to us. So we have that tension built in our lives and in the practice of the faith. We speak of the obligation to attend Sunday Mass, but I think we really need to recognize the delight and the sense of wonder and amazement as we meet and encounter the Lord. And it lifts the burden of obligation. And we suddenly say, I get to come to Mass so that I can meet Jesus once again, so that the Lord can speak to my heart, so that I can receive him and be built up and strengthened. This isn't a burden or an obligation. That can't be sustained. Something more is necessary if we really want to appreciate and be built up in the gifts that the Lord desires to share with us here. Pope Francis, one of his final teaching documents, his apostolic letter Desiderio Desideravi, which I still have a hard time saying, taken from Jesus' words at the Last Supper, I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you. Even the title of that document expresses something about how we need to come to the Lord. I earnestly desire to be here with the Lord. Pope Francis, God rest him, talked about amazement before the mystery of God as an essential part of our encounter with the Lord in the liturgy, that we would be amazed. We would experience a sense of wonder, to marvel at the Lord. He says, when I speak of astonishment at the Paschal mystery, it is marveling at the fact that the plan of God has been revealed in Jesus, and the power of his Paschal deed continues to reach us in the celebration of the mysteries, in the sacraments and in the liturgy. Wonder, then, is an essential part of the liturgy, because it is the way that those who know that they are engaged look at things. We come before the Lord to marvel with a sense of wonder that our God desires to be with us. God hungers for our presence. How much do you hunger for his? There are a lot of things that we do that we know are for our good that we might not like to do. Going to the doctor, taking medicine, eating healthy, exercise. There are even days that living our vocation might seem difficult, or even doing the job that we've been called to do, the career. A vocation, we think of finding gladness in answering that particular call. But there are days that it's difficult. Our prayer and our worship of God can't be reduced to a mere chore or a burden. It has to be seen as a joy, something that we can't wait to do. The story of Abraham and his great faith in God's promise, recalled today in the reading from the letter to the Hebrews, is a moment of marvel. Abraham marvels because he's been called by God, and he's willing to go without seeing the promise fully realized. He never stopped believing in it. Abraham leaned into doing what God asked of him, even though there was no proof. The letter to the Hebrews tells us that this is faith. Abraham becomes the model of faith because he didn't have to possess all that God pledged in order to live as though it were real. Just a word was enough for him. When Jesus says that God is pleased to give us his kingdom, is that good enough to awaken that longing and hunger that we can't wait for it to happen? Or do we cling to other things that are more certain but less valuable? The servants of the gospel today, they served out of obligation, but they also did so out of loyalty. They were there with their lamps lit, eagerly awaiting their master's return, as though everything depended on their being there at the right time. We are more than servants for the Lord. Our prayer and our worship may have been begun out of obligation. We've been trained because of that, through it, but it fosters our devotion and our love to the point that we desire to be with the Lord in prayer. If you haven't felt that movement from obligation to desire, maybe the Lord's calling you to take some step, to grow in your faith, to learn something more, to hear the Lord speak. And I'd invite you to take a step forward in that regard. And that might become a bit of a barometer. How much does this feel like an obligation or a burden? Or how much is it something that I always desire to do, long to do, and can't wait to do? I find that I am my best self as a person, as a believer, as a member of the faithful, and as a priest when I'm in prayer, especially in celebrating the Mass, because it's here that my relationship with Jesus is in its best rightful place. I, as the worshiper who has everything to seek, and the Lord, in his love, who has everything to offer. He shares his love and his life with me, and I am open, most open in prayer, receptive and grateful. It's outside of prayer where distractions creep in. And so prayer and worship becomes the training ground for everything else. So let us continue to be astonished at and eagerly anticipate what we encounter here in the Mass. This Paschal mystery has been given to us, this mystery of God and our relationship with God on this path toward heaven. It is mysterious, but we, like Abraham, can't appreciate the complete picture or the entirety of God's plan. We simply have to trust. This is where faith comes in. Evidence of things not seen and assurance of what we hope for. So despite what I don't know, I still say I, for one, can't wait for what is still to come, for what the Lord has to give us here and what is promised for us in heaven. So allow yourself to be embraced by the desire that the Lord continues to have, to be with you, to share his gifts with you. And don't be afraid to get excited about what you desire for the Lord's presence. Amen?